Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at research into the influence of early attachment on childhood and/or adult relationships, which you need to know for AQA A-level psychology in the subtopic of attachment. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Bowlby's 1969 internal working model forms the basis continuity hypothesis, suggesting that attachments in early life form and act as a template and blueprint for future childhood and later adult relationships. An infant's first relationship with their primary attachment figure leads to the formation of a mental representation or schema of their first relationship. The quality of this attachment is crucial because this will give the infant a template, which will powerfully affect the nature of their future relationships, e.g., friendships, romantic relationship, as a parent. An infant, whose first attachment is a good experience with a loving and reliable attachment figure, will tend to assume this is how relationships are meant to be. They will seek out functional relationships and behave functionally within them, e.g., without being too uninvolved or emotionally close, insecure avoidant attachment, or being controlling and argumentative, insecure resistant attachment. An infant, whose first attachment is a bad experience with a hateful and unreliable attachment figure, will tend to assume this is how relationships is meant to be. This may mean they struggle to form relationships in the first place, or they may not behave appropriately within relationships, displaying insecure avoidant or insecure resistant behavior towards friends and partners. Later relationships in childhood. Youngblade and Belsky, 1992, aimed to investigate whether early attachment styles impact later relationship quality and subsequent social and emotional behavior. The procedure involved a longitudinal study that tracked 73 children from infancy into early childhood. Initially, the researchers assessed the attachment styles of infants using the strange situation procedure, which involved observing the child's reactions to separations and reunions with their primary caregiver. Following this, the children were observed in various social situations as they grew older, and their social interactions, emotional responses, and relationships with peers were evaluated. The researchers collected data through observations and parental reports to analyze how early attachment styles correlated with later social and emotional outcomes. This comprehensive approach allowed them to explore the long-term effects of early attachment on relationships. They found that securely attached infants are more curious, competent, and self-confident. They get along with their peers and other children and are more likely to form close friendships. Insecurely attached infants are indifferent and uninterested. They don't usually get along with peers and other children and are less likely to form close friendships. They concluded that secure attachments fostered healthier relationships in later life, while insecure attachments could lead to challenges in forming and maintaining relationships. Kearns, 1994, aimed to investigate whether the quality of attachment relationships in childhood influences the development of social competence and peer relationships. He used a combination of observational and self-report methods to investigate the attachment relationships and social competence of children. The procedure involved assessing children's attachment styles through observations of their interactions with caregivers in a structured setting. Following this, the children were observed in peer interactions during playtime, where their social behaviors were recorded. Additionally, teachers and parents provided reports on the children's social skills and emotional regulation. This multi-method approach allowed Kearns to analyze the relationship between attachment quality and social competence, helping to draw conclusions about how early attachment experiences influence peer relationships. He found that securely attached infants tend to form good quality childhood friendships, whereas insecurely attached infants tend to have friendship difficulties. He concluded that attachment type is associated with the quality of relationships in childhood. The Minnesota study, 2005, aimed to investigate whether the quality of early attachment relationships in infancy predicts later social and emotional functioning in adulthood. The study utilized a longitudinal design, following participants from infancy into adulthood. Initially, researchers assessed the attachment styles of infants using the strange situation procedure to categorize them as secure or insecure. As the participants grew, they were observed in various settings, including home and school environments, to evaluate their social interactions and emotional responses. The researchers also collected data through interviews and questionnaires completed by the participants, their parents, and teachers, focusing on relationship quality, emotional regulation, and social competence. This comprehensive approach allowed the researchers to analyze the long-term effects of early attachment on adult relationships and overall psychological well-being. The study found that securely attached infants have greater emotional and social competence, are empathetic and least isolated. Insecure resistant infants are less socially competent, overly dependent, and rely on their teachers and adults for emotional support and interaction due to social difficulty with peers. Insecure avoidant infants are less socially competent and aggressive and disobedient in interactions with teachers and adults. The study concluded that early attachment experiences can significantly influence social and emotional outcomes in adulthood. Myron Wilson and Smith, 1998, aimed to investigate whether there is a relationship between attachment styles and bullying behavior among children. They conducted their study using a sample of 196 children from ages 7 to 11 from various schools in London. They assessed the children's attachment styles through questionnaires that measured their perceptions of relationships with parents and peers. To evaluate bullying behavior, they employed self-report measures where children indicated their involvement in bullying, either as perpetrators or victims. The researchers also gathered information from teachers to gain additional insights into the children's social interactions. This comprehensive approach allowed them to analyze the links between attachment styles and bullying behaviors effectively. They concluded that secure children were very unlikely to be involved in bullying, insecure avoidant children were most likely to be victims, and insecure resistant children were most likely to be bullies. They concluded that there is a significant relationship between attachment styles and bullying behavior in children. Relationships in adulthood. Quinton et al., 1984, aimed to investigate whether the experiences of mothers who had been raised in care impacted their parenting styles and the emotional development of their children. They conducted a study using a sample of mothers who had been raised in residential care and comparing them to a control group of mothers who had not experienced such backgrounds. They used a combination of interviews and observational methods to gather data on the mothers' parenting styles and the emotional development of their children. The researchers assessed various aspects of parenting, including the mother's attitudes, behaviors, and the quality of the mother-child interactions. They also examined the children's emotional and social development through standardized assessments. This comprehensive approach allowed the researchers to analyze the potential impact of the mother's early experiences on their parenting and the subsequent development of their children. They found that mothers raised in institutional care, which negatively affected their attachment styles, were more likely to struggle as parents themselves. It is believed that this lack of an internal working model, due to no parental figure within institutions, provides no template to subsequently base their own parenting on for their own children. They concluded that mothers who had been raised in care exhibited different parenting styles compared to those who had not. Hazan and Shaver, 1987, aimed to investigate whether there was a relationship between attachment type and later adult romantic and intimate relationships. They conducted a study using 620 responses from 205 men and 415 women were collected from people aged 14 to 82 years old and analyzed from a love quiz printed in an American local newspaper. The quiz had 3 sections. 1. Assessed respondents' current or most important relationship. 2. Assessed general love experiences such as number of partners. 3. Assessed attachment type by asking respondents to choose which of 3 statements best described their feelings. They found that 56% were classified as securely attached, having good, long-lasting and sustainable romantic experiences and concepts of love and trust within relationships, and were comfortable and capable of intimacy. 25% were classified as insecure avoidant, struggling with romantic relationships, being jealous, fearful and uncomfortable with intimacy, doubtful about the existence or durability of love, and do not feel as though they need partners to be happy. 19% were classified as insecure resistant, struggling to maintain relationships and are self-doubtful, most vulnerable to loneliness, needy and put too much pressure on the relationship. They concluded that adult romantic relationships are influenced by early attachment styles formed in childhood. Bailey et al., 2007, aimed to investigate the intergenerational transmission of attachment styles. They conducted a study assessing the attachments of 99 mothers to their babies using the strange situation and asked the mothers' attachment to their own mothers using an adult attachment interview. They found that the majority of women had the same attachment classification both to their babies and their own mothers. They concluded that people tend to base their parenting style on their internal working model, so attachment type tends to be passed on through generations of a family. Research into the influence of early attachment on childhood and/or adult relationships has several strengths and limitations. A strength of research into attachment and later relationships is that it has practical implications. Research into attachment and later relationships has practical implications because it provides valuable insights that can be applied in therapeutic settings and parenting practices. By understanding different attachment styles, mental health professionals can tailor their interventions to address the unique needs of individuals, helping them develop healthier relationships and improve their emotional well-being. Furthermore, this research can guide parents and caregivers in creating supportive environments that foster secure attachments, which is crucial for the emotional and social development of children. Overall, the findings from attachment research can lead to effective programs and strategies that promote resilience and positive mental health outcomes. This is a strength because it suggests that the insights gained from attachment research can be effectively applied in real-world settings, leading to tangible benefits for individuals and families. It highlights the potential for positive change and growth through understanding attachment dynamics, which can empower both professionals and caregivers to create nurturing environments that support emotional well-being. By translating research findings into practical strategies, we can foster resilience and enhance relationships, ultimately improving mental health outcomes for those affected by attachment-related issues. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that it is socially sensitive. Research into attachment and later relationships can be considered socially sensitive for several reasons. Firstly, it may reinforce negative stereotypes about individuals with insecure attachments, suggesting that they are destined to struggle in their relationships. This could lead to stigma and discrimination against those who have had difficult early experiences. Additionally, findings from attachment research can have implications for parenting and child-rearing practices. If parents feel that their attachment style will determine their child's future relationship success, it may create undue pressure and anxiety, potentially affecting their parenting behaviors. Moreover, the emphasis on early attachment experiences might overlook the role of later life experiences and social contexts in shaping relationships. This can lead to a deterministic view that does not account for resilience and the capacity for change, which is particularly important in understanding the influence of supportive environments and interventions on mental health outcomes. This is a limitation because it suggests that individuals with insecure attachments may have a fixed trajectory in their relationships, which can undermine the understanding that resilience and positive change are possible. It implies that early experiences are the sole determinants of later relationship success, neglecting the impact of supportive environments and interventions that can lead to recovery and growth. This deterministic view can be harmful, as it may discourage individuals from seeking help or believing in their ability to improve their relational patterns. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that a cause and effect relationship cannot be established. The link between early attachment, the internal working model and later relationship experiences is all based on correlational data. Therefore, it cannot be concluded that early attachment types cause later love relationships, as there may be other variables in between that influence these relationships. For example, individual differences and innate temperament may be an intervening variable and influence how a parent responds to the child itself in the formation of their attachment style. The temperament hypothesis suggests the quality of adult relationships is determined biologically from innate personality. This temperament may then be the basis for how later relationships are conducted. This is a limitation because it suggests that the relationship between early attachment and later relationships may be more complex than a simple cause and effect link. It implies that other factors, such as individual temperament and personality traits, can significantly influence how attachment styles develop and how they manifest in adult relationships. This complexity means that the conclusions drawn from attachment research may not fully capture the nuances of human behavior and the various influences that shape relationship dynamics. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that it is socially sensitive. Research into attachment and later relationships can be considered socially sensitive for several reasons. Firstly, it may reinforce negative stereotypes about individuals with insecure attachments, suggesting that they are destined to struggle in their relationships. This could lead to stigma and discrimination against those who have had difficult early experiences. Additionally, findings from attachment research can have implications for parenting and child-rearing practices. If parents feel that their attachment style will determine their child's future relationship success, it may create undue pressure and anxiety, potentially affecting their parenting behaviors. Moreover, the emphasis on early attachment experiences might overlook the role of later life experiences and social contexts in shaping relationships. This can lead to a deterministic view that does not account for resilience and the capacity for change, which is particularly important in understanding the influence of supportive environments and interventions on mental health outcomes. This is a limitation because it suggests that individuals with insecure attachments may have a fixed trajectory in their relationships, which can undermine the understanding that resilience and positive change are possible. It implies that early experiences are the sole determinants of later relationship success, neglecting the impact of supportive environments and interventions that can lead to recovery and growth. This deterministic view can be harmful, as it may discourage individuals from seeking help or believing in their ability to improve their relational patterns. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that it breaks ethical guidelines. Research into attachment and later relationships can break ethical guidelines in several ways. One concern is the potential for psychological harm to participants, particularly when discussing sensitive topics like early attachment experiences. Participants may be required to reflect on painful memories or feelings, which could lead to distress or exacerbate existing psychological issues. Another ethical issue is informed consent. In studies involving children or vulnerable populations, ensuring that participants fully understand the nature of the research and its potential risks can be challenging. Additionally, the confidentiality of sensitive personal information must be maintained, which can be difficult in studies that rely on sharing personal histories. Lastly, there is the risk of labeling individuals based on their attachment styles, which could lead to stigma or discrimination. If research findings are misinterpreted or misused, they could negatively impact how individuals are viewed in their relationships or parenting abilities. Overall, ethical considerations are crucial in ensuring that research does not cause harm and respects the dignity of all participants. This is a limitation because it suggests that the complexities of human relationships and psychological development may not be fully understood through attachment research alone. It implies that there are various factors influencing later relationships that might not be accounted for, such as environmental influences, individual differences, and the impact of supportive relationships. This oversimplification can lead to misinterpretations of how early attachment experiences shape adult relationships, potentially overlooking the resilience and growth that can occur in different contexts. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that the results may be affected by confounding variables. Research into attachment and later relationships can be affected by confounding variables, which are factors that can influence both the attachment styles and the outcomes in later relationships, potentially skewing the results. For example, socioeconomic status, parental mental health, and environmental stresses can all play significant roles in shaping both attachment experiences in childhood and relationship dynamics in adulthood. If these variables are not adequately controlled for in studies, it can be challenging to determine whether the observed effects are truly due to attachment styles or if they are influenced by these other factors. This is a limitation because it suggests that the findings regarding attachment and later relationships may not fully capture the complexity of human behavior. When confounding variables are present, it becomes difficult to isolate the specific impact of attachment styles on relationship outcomes. This can lead to overgeneralizations or inaccurate conclusions about the nature of these relationships, ultimately hindering our understanding of how attachment influences emotional and relational development. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that it is subject to social desirability bias. Research into attachment and later relationships is subject to social desirability bias because participants may feel pressured to respond in a way that they believe is more socially acceptable or favorable. This can lead to underreporting of negative experiences or feelings related to attachment styles and relationship dynamics. For instance, individuals might downplay their struggles or exaggerate their positive traits to align with societal expectations of healthy relationships. As a result, the data collected may not accurately reflect the true nature of their attachment experiences or the quality of their relationships, ultimately skewing the research findings. This is a limitation because it suggests that the findings may not provide a genuine representation of individuals' experiences with attachment and relationships. If participants are inclined to present themselves in a more favorable light, the data could be biased, leading to an incomplete understanding of the complexities of attachment styles and their impact on later relationships. Consequently, this undermines the validity of the research and its applicability to real-world scenarios. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that there are alternative explanations. The continuity between infant attachment and relationships in adulthood could be explained in other ways besides the continuity hypothesis. Kagan and Snidman, 2004, argued that this could be explained through the temperament hypothesis, the idea that humans have innate and biologically determined personality traits. These innate character traits are present from birth and are consistent into adulthood, and it is these innate character traits that influence both infant and adult relationship styles rather than a learned internal working model as proposed by Bowlby. Wood et al., 2003, suggested another alternative view which undermined the role attachments having continuity in later life. He believed that the quality of the relationship is dependent on the attachment styles of both individuals. He proposed insecurely attached people can have secure relationships if they were to find themselves with partners who were securely attached themselves. This may, in turn, influence their own attachment style to become secure, and this is something which hasn't been investigated. How one partner's attachment type can influence the other. This is a limitation because it suggests that the continuity hypothesis may not fully account for the complexities of human relationships. By introducing alternative explanations, such as the temperament hypothesis and the idea that attachment styles can be influenced by partners, it highlights the possibility that factors beyond early attachment experiences play a significant role in shaping adult relationships. This indicates that the relationship between early attachment and later relationship outcomes is not as straightforward as previously thought, and further research is needed to explore these dynamics. A limitation of research into attachment and later relationships is that it is environmentally deterministic. Research into how early attachment influences later relationships is overly deterministic as it assumes early childhood attachment types are fixed into adulthood. Also, the assumption that those who are insecurely attached at the age of 1 are definitively going to experience emotional unhappiness in relationships as adults is clearly incorrect. Researchers have found many cases where people who were not securely attached as infants go on to lead happy adult relationships later in life. Simpson et al., 2007, concluded that the past does not unalterably determine a person's future and many factors may intervene to influence later attachment. There is also research that has found that children can recover from deprivation and privation and form effective adult relationships, e.g. Tizard, 1989, and therefore an infant is not doomed to be the victim of bullying or to never have a successful romantic relationship as a result of their early negative attachment. This is a limitation because it suggests that early attachment experiences are the sole determinants of later relationship outcomes, ignoring the influence of other factors such as individual temperament and the dynamics of adult relationships. By assuming a fixed trajectory based on early attachment styles, it overlooks the potential for change and growth throughout a person's life. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.